Wootz podcast. Now, this guest is my brother from another mother. We have had many a conversation off mic, and so we figured let's bring those conversations into the studio so we can share it with a wider audience. Raxstar, how are you, my brother?
I'm good, bro. It's nice to be back.
Yeah, I'm glad to. You've sort of seen the journey of the studio from when I first done the podcast in 2015 to where we are now.
The evolution.
Yeah, exactly.
But what's good is, I think even as you get older, even as me getting older, you kind of strip things away. You start simplifying your life.
It's a refinement, yeah.
Yeah. And the studio represents that as well now.
Absolutely. I'm liking it. We're finding more little, if you want to bring any, bits the next time you're here, just if you want to add any kopre, just let me know, bruv. We'll throw it in.
I was
here.
Admiring, like I said, when I walked in, the vinyls that you've got, because I've got
Yes.
a bunch of vinyls. I've got like a stack of like my dad's old vinyls, and I'm going to look through yours afterwards as well.
Yeah,
Really, really cool.
do it.
We've probably got some of the same ones as well.
They're classics, bro. When you hear them, and we're talking, right, we're going straight into the geekiness of it, but back then you had your 4 tracks and your 8 tracks. So there was no pan it 75% in the mix. It was left or right. And when you hear that back, it's really dope because people had to make firm decisions. And they had to be proud of that decision of, okay, I'm putting it here.
But the
it needs to be right.
sound as well. You probably know this, I mean, with your experience and your background, but the sound is just completely different on a vinyl than it is.
Yeah.
Like me and Sunit were in the studio one day, and it was like, I can't remember, I think it was Shabba Rank's song, Mr. Loveman.
Oh,
I've been
okay.
picking up loads of old vinyl, so I picked up that vinyl somewhere, and I had the song as the MP3, and I played it in the studio through the speakers. And I was like, Sunit, let's play it through the vinyls. Exact same setup, but playing it off a vinyl. Warmer, like the sound was a lot more like soul. There was more soul to it. Yeah. And before that, it was like the MP3 was like metallic. Like, I don't know, it just sounded really, really harsh.
Analog versus digital, man. It's the age-old argument. But I believe that there is something when it runs through circuitry and when it is running through, I mean, technology has gotten amazingly better now where it's harder and harder to distinguish. But I think because we have a reference of that sound.
Yeah.
Like our reference is not just digital.
Yeah.
So because we have a comparison, when we hear that, for us we can hear a difference.
I think anyone could though, really. I mean, having grown up with it, you've probably got more an affinity towards it maybe.
Yeah.
But if you played that to anyone, like I don't have the greatest ears when it comes to mixing and stuff like that, but I could hear the difference. I mean, obviously I was listening for a difference as well, but it would be interesting to see. I mean, there's probably things that have been done, experiments and stuff where people have one thing and the other and you kind of compare it.
Oh, 100% they have, but I think a lot of it is down to feeling as well though. That it does feel, it makes you move a different way. It's like the old school drum machines, like the Akai MPCs and stuff like that. Producers to this day are still so attached to them because they say it makes you move differently. And the way it captures the sequence on the board, the groove, even though it's digital technically, it's an analog board, so they say the groove, it would capture the groove differently, which is why it kind of had a better swing to it. I find that
which you don't get in music these days.
You can't, it's too exact. That's
it
digital.
has to be on beat, it has to be on the line basically.
Bruv, have we started this podcast basically as two old men? Back in my day.
In my day, we had vinyls and we used to sit and listen to it from beginning to end.
It is what it is, man. Well, let's bring it forward. Brother, what's happening with the music, man? You've been traveling a lot this past year, and it's great to see releases and collaborations in India. You're doing the concerts and gigs out in New York, even European destinations. What's been going on with you for the past sort of 12 months?
I think with music, it's just been leveling up, I suppose. I mean, that was the kind of goal anyway, to level up and to become to build on what I've already done, basically. I can't keep doing what I've already done and just to not be the most successful person in a room or most successful person in any kind of place where I am basically. So I've been exposed to that a lot more, and I've been trying to put myself in those situations a lot more. And it's just been going really, really well. I can see the growth as well.
I can see it from the outside. I mean, one thing I feel you're really becoming comfortable isn't the right word, but you've really sort of mastered the art of fusing English lyrics with Punjabi lyrics, and the fusion of the flow and the way you deliver the Punjabi lyrics. It's seamless, and I love that. I've been a fan of that, just to see more development of native tongue in the music that I'm used to listening to.
I mean,
or the music I appreciate.
it's nice to hear you saying that, but it's still something that I find difficult. It's become easier the more I'm doing it. But yeah, it's still a process to me. It's still a learning curve, I think.
It's a different part of the art.
Yeah.
It's still the art form, but you are creating, or you're learning a new approach, a style.
Yeah.
You have to think about the syllables and the words and the meanings differently.
Definitely.
And especially when we've grown up here, we've grown up with English as the first language, you could say, or the dominant language.
Yeah.
To then translate your lyrics over and for it to still have the same impact and feeling, it's not an easy task. And I think you deliver that.
They say that people that speak more than one language, you are different characters, or you have different personality traits.
I believe that, bro.
Depending on what language you're speaking,
trying,
right?
and it's really hard. I'm trying to think in Punjabi.
Yeah.
You know, when you speak to yourself, when you just in your own head, when you're like just having a conversation with yourself.
Yeah.
I hope there are people who do that, not just me. But I'm trying more and more to think in Punjabi and have a conversation with myself in Punjabi.
That's really interesting. And how are you finding it?
Well, at the moment, I have to consciously do it.
Yeah.
So it's not a natural thing. Whereas, like, normally, and like, just say, like, I don't know, you're laying in bed, or you're waking up, and it's like, okay, in your head, you're thinking, well, what have I got to do today? I've got to do this, this, and this. For me, I want to translate that to immediately. Hopefully, I can get to a place. Aaj ki karna? Aaj main nu milna hai, aa kaam hai, swer nu aa kaam karna hai, sham nu aa kaam hai. That's not part of my natural mindset at the moment, and I want it to be in that place because I want to see what my thought process starts to look like when I am thinking Punjabi centric first.
Okay.
And just to see the difference.
And because you're conscious, like with my music, I'm doing that as well. Like I'm consciously, right, how can I bring a Punjabi or use Punjabi in a way that I couldn't do it in English? Or where is the segue where I can start saying something in Punjabi now, or expressing this in Punjabi?
It creates different feelings, bro.
Definitely.
It's because our languages are inherently so different that your certain lyrics you put across in Punjabi, I certainly get the feels more.
Yeah.
Than if you said the same thing in English.
I think a lot of people do. I mean, even with me, when I listen to certain artists, I'll, even other rappers, or even singers. If you hear a Punjabi song, there's just 100%. a different emotion that you feel. But it's interesting. I mean, for me, the thing about different personalities, because it was trying to reconcile that into the artist. Like, I'm a different person when I'm speaking Punjabi. I'm a different person when I'm speaking English. And the artist is someone different as well. I need to try and reconcile all those kind of things.
And you know what? It's a fascinating... Well, now that we're here, it's a fascinating place to navigate.
Yeah.
Because the artist is who you are all the time. It's not something you put on.
Yeah.
It's part of who you are now, right? You are Raxstar. This is part of your identity. But then at the same time, you're now pushing that artistry and that creative boundary by navigating between something you've always known, and something that's always been a part of you, right? Our Punjabi identity and culture. It's always been a part of you, but now you're infusing the two and trying to create the type of relationship where they do make sense together.
Yeah.
Because otherwise it can clash as well.
Yeah. And it's that road of discovery.
Yeah.
Like trying to figure it out. So, and I'm still on that road. It's not like I'm like, okay, I know.
Yeah. What's the reception been like from your audience? Because you've got a varied audience as well. It's not just a Punjabi understanding / speaking audience.
You know what? It's funny to me because I have people that like certain types of songs that I do. And that can be the social stuff, with slight political tendency stuff. It can be the love songs.
Yeah.
It can be, I've kind of done so much stuff that some people only like a certain type of thing that I'm doing. But generally speaking, I mean, the new stuff with more Punjabi lyrics and all that kind of stuff in it, it's become more, I suppose it's more mainstream. Like, it is a kind of mainstream thing. Like, people are more, it's going to reach a wider audience. And also with India as a market that we've been aspiring to kind of reach and connect with, that's had the biggest impact there as well. And we've just seen the growth just from working with certain people, certain collaborations that have happened, and also what we're doing now, how I'm expressing my creativity. it's connected there more. So that's the biggest growth that we've seen, especially in the past year.
And that's really interesting, because what has that journey looked like? Because it's such a huge market, or an audience, and you get a country like that behind you, things can change, quote unquote, overnight.
Yeah,
because it's a wave of people who can get behind what you do. So how is that? What does that look like for you over the past sort of 6 months to a year?
I mean, I went to India a couple of months ago. I've been to India in the past. Well, I've been twice in the past, like eight months or so. Just generally, people like kind of recognize me and know, like, not everyone. Like, it's not like I'm Shah Rukh Khan or something. You know what I mean? But generally speaking, like in my previous experience, I've been every year or every other year before that. Maybe one, or someone might have heard a collaboration or something, or they didn't really know. Whereas now, just because of the work that I've done, it's more obvious, and people want to have those conversations about who you're working with, what song, relatives that I have,
right, okay, yeah,
Gadna, this and that. Like they want to talk about that kind of stuff with me, which I don't really enjoy.
Fair enough.
Because it's like, that's work, isn't it? So
yeah, that's true. But then on a work related level though, in terms of from an industry standpoint and a fan standpoint, do you find that, and this may be an obvious answer, but do you find that the connection to what you're doing has strengthened and improved because you are speaking in their primary language, or in a language familiar to them first, over English?
I think to a certain audience.
Okay.
I mean, there's people that in India that have supported from way back in the day. I remember listening, telling me I remember listening to Keep It Undercover. Like when Keep It Undercover came out in 2005, that was released on Bobby Friction's compilation CD called Friction 2, which was massive.
2005.
Yeah.
Brother.
So people
That's
from
a
then,
decade ago, brother.
Yeah. So people,
wow.
even from them, people are saying, I remember listening to that. So there is a certain, like, I would say, an audience who's always kind of paid attention or always kind of been there. But every couple of years you see a wave of new people who are, just getting into your music. People will be like, I like your first song. Oh, which one? Like Akian, which I released last year.
Right, of course, yeah, because for them, and as far as they know of your journey, that's their first song for you.
That's their first entry, which is really, really interesting. But the other side of it, which it's kind of bittersweet, but it's a lesson as well, and I've talked about in a couple of songs that are going to be on like my EP and my mixtape, my album, and a lot of artists will have experienced this, is people that have supported you or that you feel have supported you or have been at the forefront of support. They kind of, it's just a phase. And that's what happens in music as well. With a lot of artists, people have like a little 2-3 year period where they're really, really big supporters of what you're doing. And then they just kind of move on. They just kind of start listening to other types of music, or they still have maybe like a romanticized view of you, but they'll only remember those couple of little songs or that little project that you did at that time when it affected them. And everything that you've done after that, or new stuff that you do, they're whatever about it, basically.
All right, you've touched on a really deep point there, man. That's actually got me thinking about this on a deeper level, which is often you will listen to music, or you will definitely identify with certain music depending on where you are emotionally in life at that period of time.
Definitely.
And I think you touched on a really key point there, because I get like this a lot when you listen to sort of I wouldn't call them old school rappers, but rappers when we were perhaps teenagers growing up.
Yep.
And because of where you were in your life, that affiliation and that affection for that style, that sound, that delivery, when you translate that, 5 years later, 10 years later, it doesn't feel the same way. And like, it sounds like, do you feel like, well, I guess it's human nature, brother, that I have an expectation of you because I connected to you at a certain time in my life. Yeah. And then but you're on your own journey.
Yeah. And like and you should always be that person. Like, why don't you do songs like that anymore? Why don't you do this song anymore? And it's like, I am an artist. I'm not that same person that was making those songs. So I'm constantly evolving. And that's why I said it's a lesson in music, but it's a life lesson as well, because it feels like it's fickle. Like,
but you know what? And I used to feel that way too. And I think we've chatted like when we have our old man
Probably,
chats.
yeah.
You know what I mean? Talking about back in my day. But
yeah,
I kind of feel like we're in a place where it's actually accepting that that's the journey. That we all have attachments, and it's really hard to let go of that feeling of comfort. That you, bruv, like whether you acknowledge this or not, keep it undercover. Set a tone for a generation of brown kids. like it was the soundtrack to a lot of brown kids' lives in terms of the relatability of it.
Yeah.
That's deep, you know what I mean? But at the same time, how long can you keep it undercover for, innit?
Exactly. I mean,
you can't still be trying to create that feeling 10 years later because you're not there. I get it. And technically I'm not there.
Yeah.
So how it's hard.
It's that nostalgia that you have. But the thing is, I'm not bitter about it.
Nah, you can't be.
I don't feel a type of way about it. I just feel like it's interesting to probably be on both sides of that.
Yeah.
Being that I'm an artist and I've experienced the other side of it, having people feel that way about me, I'm kind of less that way about other artists.
Yeah.
People that I would listen to, and maybe, I'll listen to their new stuff and it won't connect as much. And it's just one of these things where they're on their journey, you're on your journey. So sometimes those, your paths will intercross and something will connect at that time. Maybe it will connect again in the future, but at that particular moment, there's a fondness and a memory of that particular thing.
100%.
Which you'll always have that. Like there's certain albums that I listened to growing up that I will always like take me back to those places, and I will feel a certain way about those particular artists because of that. But it's just a journey. People are on their different journeys, and like I said, there's a new generation every couple of years who will connect to the new stuff.
Don't you think that's amazing, bro? That excites me as someone who runs a clothing brand, as someone who is creating. It excites me when I do come across people and they've never heard of Wootz.
Yeah.
Because it's like, wicked, you're a brand new face that I can introduce you to a whole new world, and that's my world.
Yeah.
And I think that's an amazing feeling that you can put yourself in a place where there's new eyes who for the first time are going to experience your sound, your style, what you have to say. Like that's why stuff is timeless. That's why we can listen to a track 40 years old and it'll still it can still resurge, it can come back because it's like, if the message is there, that feeling is timeless, and you can always feel it again.
That's a beautiful thing, because when you've got a body of work or you've got a body of content, anyone can come to that at any time and they can discover all of that stuff. There's an interesting thing about Ed Sheeran. So after he released the Plus album, which was his first major label release, which did amazingly well.
Okay.
Before that, he had, I think, 5 EPs that he released independently, which he still owned, and he still, obviously, he could make money off those, which he released, I think, again after he released Plus, which reached, obviously, a massive worldwide audience. But he still had this body of work.
Well played.
That he owned.
That's clever.
that he owned, and that was still phenomenal.
Yeah.
And that he was able to capitalize on because of, his newfound success and people that had just come to the table for that album, and they can look back and see, oh, this guy's been going for like quite a long time. He's been doing a lot. He's put his work in, which I find really inspiring, because I feel like people can do that with me as well. Like there's a body of work. You can see the journey. You can kind of discover songs that you might not have heard unless you'd have heard this new commercial one or this new project that had, come out just now. You've stumbled on that. Now look at what we did 10 years ago, or 8 years ago.
Yeah. So when you're navigating between commercial songs and what would be the right word? Songs that are more meaningful to you, let's say. Because I, from what I know of you anyway, as an artist, I don't think you put anything out for the sake of a $sign anyway. So how do you navigate that journey between something that is made for a wider audience versus something that is more maybe lyrically conscious or has a deeper lyrical tone that a certain audience will resonate with?
I think it's about, one, knowing yourself. If you know yourself and you know your own voice, which is what I had issues with like years ago, I had this fear of doing anything commercial because it might be seen as if I'm compromising my voice or what I want to say. That was a learning process. I was trying to figure out my own voice and know what I'm comfortable with and what I'm not comfortable with. I feel like I'm still on that journey. I'm still learning that, but more so now, I know who I am and I know what I want to say. I'm more comfortable expressing myself, especially through music. And once you know that, then you can place yourself in situations like someone can give you a commercial song and be like, right, what can you do on this commercial song? The old me would have said, that's a commercial song, I can't do that.
Okay, yeah.
Whereas the new me goes, right, I know what I would talk about. I know what my voice is, what my expression would be. How can I fit into this commercial sound? Like, what can I do which would be different to what someone else would do? Or what would be my story on this song? And the other thing that I had, which kept popping up in my life before, like, I got to this place was, if you keep doing the same things, you're going to get the same results.
Yeah.
And if you make underground music, you're making music for the underground. If you're making commercial music, you're making music for a wider audience. Now, that doesn't mean you have to become something else. You can still be you and create commercial music. And that was something I had to get my head around. So now what I do is I try to have a balance. So to be honest, it's me and my manager, we talk quite a lot, and he's always pushing, it makes sense. He's always saying, we need to do a commercial song.
Yeah.
Or, how can we do a song which incorporates more elements, which will make it more appealing to a wider audience, I have no problem with that, as long as I'm remaining true to myself and saying things or writing lyrics and having themes through the songs which I am comfortable with and that I relate to and that represent who I am. The other songs, regardless of how unpopular they are, not unpopular, but not as wide-reaching as the other songs, I will always do. I have to do. It's like, out of my own sanity, I think I would go nuts if I was just making music like that. So I still...
Then it endangers just being a job.
Yeah.
If you're not allowed, like, the reason you broke out to be an artist is to create.
Yeah.
And if your creativity is confined to a specific thing that you must do, I can totally see where that would sort of suck some of the energy out of it. Because like, well, then where's the artistry?
Yeah.
If I just have to do the sort of confines of it.
Exactly. And it's funny that you said that because about 2 weeks ago, I haven't worked in the studio with a producer for a while.
Right, okay.
It's 2017. A lot of what's done is, here's the beat, bro, email it over, cool, I need a 16 here. What's your idea? Oh, blah, 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 whatever. It's all done on email, it's all done on phone calls. So I haven't been in the studio with a producer for a while, actually, probably over a year. To create anyway. Sometimes you'll have the record, you'll write your verse, and you'll get in the studio and record it. Anyway, so I had a session about 2 weeks ago with Luke, a good friend of mine, who's in the Dream Warriors as well, in the band, producer as well. And I just had an idea for a song literally on the drive up. So we'd said, look, let's have a session on whatever day it was. I drove up. While I'm driving the car, I'm like, okay, this is a good concept for a song. I get there and Luke's like, what should we work on? And we already had like 3 records that we were working on.
Oh, okay.
I was like, bro, I got this idea. And I told him the concept of the idea of the song. And I goes, bro, play something emotional. And Luke's so good on the keys. He's amazing on the keys. So Luke's like playing on the keys. I'm like, that. I'm like, play that again. And then he's playing, and he's amazing, he's playing. I'm like, bro, record that. So he's recording and he starts playing stuff. While he's recording and playing stuff, I'm writing my verses. And in about 4 hours, we banged out the song, like everything from scratch. And I hadn't done that in such a long time. I was like, oh, I can do this.
Feels like,
I can do this. I remember now. And because it had been such a while, I was like, wow, it had such an effect on me. And it was just a reminder, like, you love this and this is what you can do.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was an amazing feeling. And I've just been on that vibe. I went to see Sunit, I think maybe a couple of weeks after that, and we did the same thing, literally.
I think it's so important, brother, because I was watching Zane Lowe interview Kendrick Lamar for his latest album, Damn.
Yeah, I've seen that one.
Right. So the point he makes, and I don't know if he set out to make a point out of it, but I think there was something special in that he said he was in the same room as Rihanna.
Yeah.
When they laid that down, it wasn't the traditional method. You're right. It is that you just make a phone call, say, "Look, can you lay down your vocals?"
It's out of necessity and ease in most situations.
But you lose something quite critical, which is the element of creativity.
Yeah.
Having 2 heads in there, 3 heads in there, especially if they are, everyone's in their zone.
Yeah.
I mean, imagine that booth, bruv. Rihanna, Kendrick Lamar, and Dre.
Yeah.
Like what's coming out of those minds in that environment?
Yeah, and it's energy as well, which I believe in a lot. Like when you're around certain people, when you're in that environment, especially when there's other artists there, there's like a different energy. You can just create. Like sometimes sitting in a studio by yourself trying to just write a song is not the best environment to creating art. Sometimes you need to be around, you need to be around a producer who's playing stuff and like, giving you melody ideas or just saying like, do it like this, and you need another artist there just to, you know what I mean? Sometimes you need that energy. Up. Yeah.
When you're around that sort of, when everyone's at the top of their game and when everyone's going in, it's contagious.
Yeah.
And you feel the same way and you think, right, I need to step up my game, or what can I bring to this? Because you said something really, I think it was a brilliant way to look at it, and I think this should be applied to anyone in their life, which was how you said how can I bring my story to this track, or how can I bring my story to this verse? What a great way to look at it. It may not always be 100% of what you need to do or what you want to do, whatever that is in life, whatever your field is, but you're still the individual. You're still unique in everything that you do. So how can you bring your story to it? I think that's a wicked way to look at it.
And that's how I think I like to say that to people, especially when artists are a little bit demotivated. Like, no one can have your voice. There was a point where I was like listening to rappers and I was like, yo, what's the point? Like, there's so many amazing rappers out there, so many amazing people, so technically gifted, like everything. And I was like, what's the point? And I can't remember what I read. I think it might have been a Paulo Coelho book or something. And it was just like, no one can tell your story and no one can be your voice. And that's your strength. Like, the power lies in that.
That's so, bro, like, I done a talk in, I think it was 2016 or 2015, I done a talk. And that was exactly what I mentioned. I said that you are the only version of you, brother. That's mad. Like, just really think about that, and not in an egotistical way, but you are the only version. You are the only you can present anything the way you present it.
Yeah.
People can try to imitate, people can try to copy, but those words will always come in front of that. An imitation, a replica, it was like, but they will never say it was that thing.
Exactly.
How empowering is that? What a mad way to, like, if you're in that field of creativity.
I think not even just creativity, anywhere.
In life,
like whatever you do. And I think people forget that, especially in this kind of day and age where we're constantly compared to other people. We're constantly given, put in situations where comparison is all, I'm not as good as that, or I'm not as good as this. And no, that's not the point. The point is you are you, and you have that power. You have that, whatever it is, whatever your gift is, whatever your voice is, whatever your creativity is, whatever it is that you do, only you can do that. So you should find strength in that and power in that.
I think that comes back to something you said before, which is that you were still developing your voice and you were still becoming comfortable in your own shoes as you evolved.
Yeah.
I think where we are right now, just as a wide sort of society observation, there is a lack of confidence in the self. Therefore, the comparison level rises and rises, because then you have we all need a benchmark, right?
Yeah.
Then when the benchmark becomes the primary, that you just look outwards to, but I'm not like this person, or I want to be like that person, you don't develop a sense of self.
Yeah.
And so then you become reliant on that. And the problem is, if you're not developing you, you're never going to reach them or be on a level playing field. So it's this weird cycle.
What do you think why do you think that is the case? Do you think, I mean, it's easy to blame social media.
Nah, you know what?
Social media is such a great scapegoat, isn't it?
Yeah,
but what do you think it is?
I think society has evolved that way, bro. I think I said this in another podcast as well, that comfort is the death of revolution. When you become comfortable, you're not compelled to push, to grow, to challenge. We are incredibly comfortable. It is a luxury. The fact that we can even sit where we are sitting now, we have no threat of a potential bomb being thrown, from the sky.
I don't know, bro. There's
okay. Minus the crazy administrations that are in power now, but for the most part, if you're in the Western world,
you're safe.
We're safe.
Yeah.
And so that comfort,
it breeds complacency.
It breeds complacency, and it creates an environment where we've become accustomed to having things done for us. So now when you have to become your own voice, if you haven't developed a sense of what that even means, if you haven't developed a sense of originality, or it's not encouraged per se, because what is encouraged through social media is replication.
Yeah.
Look like this, get this look, get that pout, get that makeup style, get that fashion sense, whatever it is, but it's get something else.
Yeah.
And when that's the dominant narrative, which is what I feel like social media has amplified, then for the next generation, I would say this, because I think I'm so grateful for the sort of era I've grown up in. So my background is from an era of seeing immense originality. I was listening to, I think it was like T.I., Snoop. They had some heavy hitter rappers, and it was really interesting to hear their perspective on. There's nothing wrong with the rap industry where it is right now, but the individualism is very hard to find.
Yeah.
Whereas back then there was, and maybe because it was less saturated, who knows? I don't have an answer for that. But back then you had, you knew a Snoop had a sound.
Yeah.
Tupac had a sound.
Everyone
T.I. had a sound.
Everyone had their own.
There was a sound to people, and you knew that sound and attached it to them. Whereas now, I'm not really in the industry scene, so I can't say this, but I don't know the difference between a Quavos and a Quaver and everything else. There isn't that same level of
but people are
individuality.
people are encouraged to make like this song's a hit song, which is what they did back in the day as well.
It's true.
This is a hit song. Make a song like that.
Yeah.
And it's like, I think make your song.
Yeah. And the thing is, again, it's a comfort thing, right? So especially if we're talking music industry specific, those budgets are gone where they would invest and spend the time in an artist to grow and develop their sound.
Yeah.
Now we've got next to zero budget. What's commercially successful? How do we replicate that with this new person?
I think it's in a lot of creative industries, the creative people are not in charge because we don't have.
The accountants, bruv. Yeah. The accountants started running things a while back.
The people who aren't creative are in charge, so they just see something that's successful and are like, and it's the same with films, with loads of stuff. Like, this is successful, make something like that.
Yeah.
Superhero films are successful. Yeah. Make a superhero film.
Non-stop. So let me ask you about that, because that's an interesting. I was having this conversation with the man behind the camera, Narveed, that I think sometimes trying to do everything can be really difficult as well. So you have a manager, and your manager has a specific role. And for the most part, it is to make sure you stay paid and employed, right? You're not doing this just for the love of it. You want to eat, you want to pay your bills, you want to look after your family. So how do you find that balance of knowing when to trust your artistic creativity, but at the same time having to trust your team of people around you and being like, okay, you know what? That is the right call. I'll listen to what you're saying and take that route.
You never know.
Okay.
Like literally, every song that we've ever released has been a risk.
Right.
Even to this day, like we're not like, oh, this is the formula. Like let's just do this.
Yeah, if that was true, yeah,
exactly. If you could do that, you could print money. But literally, every song is a risk. It's like, right, this is what, and I've learned this more. I think I might have mentioned it in the other podcast that we did, but just studying my own stuff. And studying, just becoming a student again, like proper student of music, of commercial music, of what is successful in this country, abroad, within Asian music as well. Just like looking at what people connect with, what makes sense, and what is successful, and just learning those lessons and applying it and making decisions which are thought out, like well kind of thought out. Right, this worked in the past. What was it about that connected? Okay, cool. Right, can I still do that? Yes. Can I bring the 2016-17 version of me to this situation? Yes.
So let me. Is that something you think about a lot as well, or do you leave that to your management or your team?
Me, like Khaled's my manager. It's just us two basically.
Right.
Like most stuff you see is just us two.
Yeah.
Like we speak so many times a day, constantly in contact with each other. You know, we literally are always talking about everything. That's the clothing, that's the shows, the singles, the album, the EP, like everything. Like, and it's just like literally just us having a conversation with each other and trying to figure it out. And neither of us are like, that's it. Like this is gonna work. This is gonna blah blah blah. Like we know it's a process, and it's learning from these things that we've done in the past and bringing that bringing that knowledge to what we do in the future. So every song is a risk. Like I think people don't understand that side of things. Like every song is a risk. Like we're putting time, money, and investment in something, and then letting it go. And let's see if it works.
Hoping that it's received the way you want it to be received.
Yeah.
So, I mean, would you want to do what he does?
Nah.
You know what I mean?
Nah, I can't.
Like,
I'm so happy. Like, there's certain things that he deals with that, and we have conversations sometimes. And he tells me like, "Bro, whatever," and I'm like, "Bro, I'm glad you're dealing with that because I don't have the like. I've become so comfortable being a creative person that I like to focus on that as well. And there is a business. I am a businessman as well. Like I do like, take an active interest in the business side of things, but the nitty gritty, the speaking to people and sorting out, the minutiae of things, like micromanaging things. I can't deal with that stuff.
I think that's an important distinction to make, because if you can get to yourself, anybody starting out, let's face it, the world is on your shoulders. You're not getting out of that. You're the person who writes it, who produces it, who mixes it, who
and I've been
advertises it. Yeah, exactly.
And I've been there.
Been in
I
think that part is important.
Yeah.
Because if you've been there, you know the process. And it's good to know the process because it gives you a wider understanding of the whole game and not just the creative part or your role in this journey. But at the same time, being able to grow and develop yourself into the part where you just get to concentrate on your strengths effectively.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You don't want to be the person who's having to negotiate your own rate for an event or something. It's like,
exactly.
You know what I mean? Like you just want to create.
Yeah.
And I think having that balance and trust, I think that's a hard part. As a creative, I definitely it took me a while to open up the doors, so to speak, and allow others in to manage or handle certain parts, because you have such an attachment and affection for what you're doing.
Yeah.
And no matter what it is, in your mind, or in my mind at least, no one can do it the way I see it.
Yeah.
No one's going to give it the feel or the energy that I'm going to give it. Makes sense because it's coming from me. But life is not about isolation. You can't do it on your own.
You can't be... There's a brilliant Talib Kweli lyric that I love from Eardrum, the intro of his album. And he says... And you can apply this to anything, but he says, I try to put it in the same rhyme, but realize you can't be everything to everyone at the same time. And you can't do everything at the same time.
Yeah.
Like, I apply that a lot to my music, because sometimes people have an expectation of what they want from me and what they expect from me, but I can't be that. I can't be everything to everyone. Like I have to kind of find my comfort, what I'm comfortable with, and just express that. And maybe you'll like the next song. Maybe you'll like, one after that. You don't have to like everything. But I think it's important to, you can't do everything.
You can't, brother. Like
it's impossible.
I think to take on the task. At first, you don't have a choice.
Yeah, but you have to out of necessity.
Yeah, out of necessity, you have to. And I think that, like, I would tell anyone who wants to get into anything in the creative arts or any passion they want to pursue, at first, do it all, because you need to see how the whole cycle works. Because otherwise, you'll never be able to appreciate the mindset of what needs to happen at stage 2 or stage 4.
And can you imagine if you didn't, you were managed from day one, and God forbid that something happened and you were just left.
Yeah, and then what?
Then what would you do?
Then you're left to fend for yourself without having any experience.
You would have no idea how the processes work.
Yeah.
So, that's another side of looking at it. But definitely, I think having people that you trust, surrounding yourself with people who share the same vision and have the same goals as you, you know. The other thing is, like being an artist, you have to find people who sometimes they're happy to play the background.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people who, especially in this day and age, like everyone wants to be famous and they see the glitz and glamour, but they don't necessarily see the hard work that goes on behind the scenes.
And in the nicest way, this is not to cause offense to anyone, brother, history has taught us one thing: not everyone is built to be number one.
Yeah.
That's the truth. Not every and no number one has ever truly succeeded and had a long reign without numbers 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 holding it down around them.
Yeah.
You know, it isn't this isolated.
It's thing. Easy. I mean, it's easy to look. You'll look from the outside and you'll be like, oh, that guy's an amazing actor. That guy's an amazing musician. That guy's this. That guy's that. That girl's an amazing this and that. But whenever they win awards, they're thanking all those people that have literally, created that. So it does take. It's not just one person.
It's a formula, right? There's ingredients involved. It's not just one thing that creates it. It's a mixture of bringing everything together. And I think again that is the behind the curtain of social media, because your Instagram, whatever.
Someone's
it is,
taking the photos.
Just
know that someone's taking the photos. They're not all selfies.
Releasing the end product and assuming, that's it.
Yeah.
But what got it to that stage? That's always fascinated me as well. I've always been really interested in the process, and sometimes to an unhealthy habit. Like when I first saw Lord of the Rings, I went a bit too deep. Like it got a bit unhealthy. Like I'm reading The Hobbit. I'm reading. I'm reading, I forgot what they call it, the Silmarillion, which is the original whole story before Lord of the Rings and everything. It sets the tone for this world. And then I'm reading like Tales of Numenor. Even though it's make believe, this is one man's creative vision.
Yeah.
I get fascinated with the journey that leads everything to where it is now. Mm-hmm. I've always had this like real deep interest in what got us to that point, or what got anything there.
Yeah.
As opposed to, this is just the way it is. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Like sometimes I'm okay with that as well, but other times if it's really piqued my interest or it resonates with my sense of who I am, then I find myself really wanting to sort of peel the layers and be
was it? What did you learn anything from doing all that research into that?
I think it just relates to Sikhi and the journey of the gurus, the journey of righteousness, morality, battles, loss, all this stuff that is so relatable in this novel or in this fantasy world that is built up around these same ideas. I mean, these are the age-old stories of man, right? Good versus wrong, righteous, having to make questionable decisions and the consequences of these things. That's life, bro.
Hero's journey. Who was that again?
Hero's journey.
The guy, I can't remember. Yeah.
I don't know. Is it a writer or?
It's a writer. Yeah. He's the guy who inspired George Lucas to write Star Wars. But
okay.
What's his name? James something. Oh man.
James Cameron?
No.
That's the only James I know.
No.
James Brown?
No. Yeah. I was listening to something earlier about it, but basically every story is the hero's journey, basically.
And I think it translates. And the problem now is with a lot of, and I think that's why a lot of superhero movies sort of have the.
I remember Joseph Campbell.
Oh, okay.
Joseph Campbell.
So, but I think that's where a lot of these superhero movies may have some of their failings, which is inherently, they're going to come out of it on the winning side at the end of it. And that's why for me, The Dark Knight was so deep as a movie, because you didn't know. You assumed, Batman's going to make it, but it's like, especially The Dark Knight, with Heath Ledger as the Joker.
Yeah.
You don't know the level of anarchy. You don't know where that's going to get pushed to, whether, everyone is going to make it, whether everyone is going to survive. And that's so much truer to real life, that the variables that exist, brother, that's life. And sometimes you need to step out of this make-believe world of, if I work really hard, then I'm going to get this, this, and this, because that's what should happen. Not anymore, man.
Nah.
Like that model of life, that model of work hard and you'll receive your what's owed to you, I think is only part of the story now. Working hard is the bare minimum to entry now.
But then if people, I mean, there's that meme in it. If working hard equaled your monetary gain or success or whatever, then I think it was African women would be the richest women in the world.
Okay, yeah.
Like, even Indian women, like, our ancestors, people that, still live, below poverty lines, they work extremely hard just to get water.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean?
That's
like,
a good point.
So, yeah, I think working hard it's just you just have to do that. That's just a given now.
It's part of it. You have to accept it as, it's just something, it's part of the game. If you want to play this game, you got to accept that working hard is part of this game.
Yeah. Or working smart as well.
Yeah.
Working smart is really important. I think that was a lesson that I've learned quite recently. Just being, I think learning, people kind of reach success or experience success and they get to a level of complacency, which always kind of leads to your downfall anyway, but they stop learning. They feel like they've clocked the game, they've mastered it, they know how it works, but the game is constantly evolving. Whatever it is, it's constantly evolving, and you have to evolve with it. You have to constantly be in a state of learning to be able to mold yourself around the changes that are made. Like as soon as you think, right, that's it, I've made it, or that's it, I've done this. Look at any fall from grace that you can look through history. It's when the person's thought that, okay, this is it now.
Comfort.
Yeah, there you go.
So bringing it back to the album, what goes into your decision-making process of what's going to stay, what's going to maybe be on the back burner, what's going to be for part 2, or what's just straight up disregarded and you don't feel like it's the right pick for the album?
I think it's the overall theme. I mean, for the album, I don't want to say too much for the album because basically, I mean, the EP is 6 songs.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully, I mean, I think it's going to be coming first. Basically, everything's in the works at the moment. The 6 songs for the EP have been done. They're just, I told you this before off camera, but I'm just waiting for the mixes and the masters to come back for those songs, and then we can start shooting the videos, which we'll probably start shooting the videos very soon anyway. That's probably going to be first, and the concept of that, I can give you all that information anyway. That project's called Glass Ceiling.
Okay.
And the idea I had, the concept of Glass Ceiling was breaking through the glass ceiling to a different, like leveling up basically, and to break through that, that layer, I have to do things that I haven't done before. I have to create music which I haven't made before, and I have to reach audiences that may not have heard of me before.
Okay.
So that's the concept of that EP, to do that and still retain who I am. So that's the concept for the EP, and then the album is something completely different.
Well, just on the EP there.
Okay.
Did the name come first, and then the songs that would contribute to that name, or were you just working on material?
Well, I've been making an album for about 5 years.
Fair enough.
Like my first idea for an album was called Faith and Patience, and I actually had an idea for a mixtape called Faith and Patience probably over 10 years ago. When I was in college and uni, I used to make mixtapes every year, and the idea for the next one, so I made like 4 or 5 mixtapes, and the idea for the next one was to be called Faith and Patience. And then I met Sunit, and things started like picking up music wise, and I was like, then we did our EP, Fulfilling Ambition, and I was like, right, I'm gonna make, when I do my own solo album, it's gonna be called Faith and Patience. Carried on that name, And me and Sunit worked on some songs for Faith and Patience, and some of them I've done and some of them have been used for other projects and stuff. But it just felt like it wasn't the right time for that album.
Okay.
I felt like it would have been lost. One, it would have either gone over people's heads, or two, it would have just come out and it wouldn't have had the impact that I wanted it to have. And simply because of the content that's on there, and it was just very intricate, and I just thought it's going to be wasted. Like I don't want to be in a position where I put out something which I think is going to be maybe one of the best things that I ever do, and I haven't reached a level of success where I know it will reach an audience.
Yeah, and that's something you do have to think about, because timing is so important.
Of course.
Timing is such a critical thing, because on one side of the argument, you'll hear the idea of first to market. You know, you want to be the first. It doesn't have to be completely polished and everything, but you want to be first, because if you're anything after that, then it's just going to be like, oh, that sounds like that looks like that, or that drives like that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, when you're creating something that is a vision of something you believe in and you understand, you are conscious of wanting to pick the right time to deliver that message or produce that sound for your given audience.
Of course.
So what do you...
So those songs...
How do you navigate that?
Yeah, I mean, so those songs that we did for Faith and Patience, I've listened to some of them, and they still sound, you know, they sound timeless, basically. But yeah, I mean, that's kind of on the back burner. That's been on the back burner for a while. Then my idea was to do an album called Glass Ceiling. And the way the industry is, people want singles.
Right.
Labels want singles and people want singles.
Yeah.
So, I mean, slowly, the songs that were going to be on Glass Ceiling just became singles and singles. And they've just been released. So, obviously that concept of Glass Ceiling was still there. And... to answer the question, basically, the name came first. Yeah. So Glass Ceiling, the name was there. And then for the EP now, those are all new songs. So the idea was still there for that project to be called that and to have that impact and to have that result. But those songs, basically new songs, became songs that are going to be part of that project. Because
your EP and your album, I mean, both of them, well, this was something that was kind of new to me in the sense that I hadn't thought about it in that way until I watched the interview with Kendrick Lamar with and Zane Lowe.
Yeah.
But how he had named it in a way that it tells a story as well. Just the track listing in itself tells a story as well as the lyrics within each of those songs.
Yeah.
And that really got me thinking that, like, you have the ability to take the listener on an experience of you.
Yeah.
It's an experience of your journey that you hope will be relatable to the people you're pushing that message out to. And that's fascinating for me, because I think that's so powerful that you're carving your own piece of history. And like,
I never looked at it that way.
It's deep, bro. It really made me it made me very grateful, because like you're getting an insight to something that lasts forever.
Yeah.
And that really sunk in for me when, having worked on the documentary I was telling you about, Sikh Musical Heritage, The Untold Story, that now that this thing has been created, unless somehow digital technology wipes out and we get Armageddon, it's there forever. When I'm dust and I'm merely particles and I move on to the next whatever journey that is, this thing still exists.
Yeah.
And this thing still has the ability to influence, impact, excite someone's life and change perhaps, or influence their vision of the world through the things you say.
People don't really think that way either. It's fascinating because
we look at life too deeply. People are like, I just like the bass, bro. You know what I mean?
It's true, but I mean, to think of art that way as well is very, very true. Like, but when you're creating it, you're not thinking of that.
No.
I mean, there's a thing that I have, which is I just want to get it out.
Yeah.
I just want to get it out. Like, I'm really, really impatient. When I love, you don't know how hard it's been for me to have these songs and not release them, not know when I'm going to release them.
Yeah.
Like, people on my Snapchat, I'm constantly like, every couple of weeks I'll just post up like a 10-second snippet of a song, because I just want, like, I want it out, basically.
Yeah.
I can't sit on it. For me, it's like,
well, I think you've
crucial.
definitely locked the patience part of the album. If that is still going to be the name of the new album, you've definitely locked the patience part.
Yeah. But I think so. I mean, that's the concept for the EP, and then the album is something completely different. That's I'd say the EP is I don't know. I say the EP is maybe my mind, and then my heart and soul is the album.
And do you have a set number of track listings in mind, or is it again it comes down to feeling and what you feel makes it onto
for those both of those
both,
projects?
Yeah.
I think we just kind of got songs done.
Yeah, because I know EPs generally tend to sit at sort of 4 to 6 tracks anyway. It's kind of what an EP's for. It's a taster.
I mean, I think we just kind of got the songs done. There were some songs that, 1 or 2, I think, that maybe got taken off. And then it was just making a concise body of work, the EP, that would have the impact that we want it to have. So everything has to kind of hit. So that was the goal of the EP. With the album, I've got an idea of, I think I want 10 to 12 songs. And yeah, I mean, I'd say maybe 9 of them are done. And then I've got ideas for another 3 songs. But I think I'll probably whittle it down maybe. Once they're all done, I'll kind of decide what kind of fits in. Because you have to look at the body of work as well. Like sometimes one song won't fit in with the rest of the songs.
Has to fit within
or
the
a
story.
Concept won't gel with the rest of the project. So
would you want to get that all out this year?
that's the plan, bro.
Okay, wicked.
That's the plan, but in my head it's done. It's been done for ages. The album is still kind of ongoing, but I mean, it should all be written and recorded within the next month or so, and that just leaves the long process of the after that.
So I know, especially now that we've been talking about writing a lot and this sort of idea, I know you enjoy writing not just for music. And do you find that writing in other fields, be it for film or be it for other projects, does that add to the creativity of you going back to your music, or is that more of an outlet for you, or just another avenue where you're allowed to express your creativity?
I'd say, yeah. I mean, just expressing my voice and creativity in a different avenue. Because there's things that I've done that people, I'm not really going to talk about on the podcast, but people wouldn't necessarily think that I've done. And to me, it's just an exercise. Like, it's like taking, I don't know, someone who paints and saying, paint this in a church, or paint this in, try graffiti, or do, you know what I mean? Like putting someone who has a skill and just putting it in a different environment. So I've done different things, which have been really, really rewarding, and I've surprised myself in sometimes. Yeah. Like I've done stuff for some adverts, which I won't talk about too much. I'll tell you off camera.
Okay, fair enough.
There was the BBC thing that I did.
Yeah.
The Asian Network ident thing, which we spoke about before I got involved with that. That was a really interesting process.
Well, let's get into that.
Yeah.
So what was the, has that come out? I can't.
Yeah. It's been out. It was on, I think it was on like BBC One and stuff. Like they did play it quite a bit.
Yeah.
Especially when they had the Asian Network show, Asian Network Live, a couple of months ago.
So
they were pushing that a lot.
For the audience who may not have seen it or haven't heard of the project, what was the premise behind it?
So for people that aren't in England, there's a BBC Asian Network, is a radio station that plays predominantly South Asian music, Bollywood, Bhangra, the fusion kind of stuff. They've always supported my stuff as well. And they wanted to have an ident, which just represented the station and what they stand for and what their goals are and that kind of thing, basically, just to, what does it mean to be kind of British Asian? That was the kind of brief. So I was brought on board for the project just to write something like a spoken word piece. And for me, it's really funny. I listen to Bill Burr's podcast, and he always has this thing where he goes, for me, like people always say for me. So, but anyway, for me, I just wanted to represent I mean, it's interesting that we talk about identity, and we've spoken about it as well
many a time. Yeah,
and I'm still not sure where I stand on that. For me, I'm still reading, I'm still learning, I'm still trying to figure that out in myself. For the Asian Network project, I wanted to be the opposite of what we're represented as in mainstream culture.
Okay, yeah.
Which is either in the least embarrassing and in the most dangerous and extremists. So my goal was to be respectful of our culture, of our journey here, not only our journey but our parents' journeys that have come here and created this life for us, and just be a response to all the crap that we get shown who we are. And you know, I've had a lot of experiences and interactions with people who have no interaction or Asian people in their lives whatsoever, and it's amazing how ignorant they are of who we are.
Yeah. Or you get the people whose only reference of who we are is bloody goodness gracious me.
Yes. Or something else completely embarrassing. I mean, Goodness Gracious Me was an interesting show. There was a lot of that I thought was quite funny in that show.
Yeah, it definitely had massive comedic value.
Yeah.
But it also set the tone that it set the tone of that's what the entire culture is like.
That's the thing. You don't get a broad spectrum of everyone.
Yeah.
Not everyone is a buffoon.
Yeah.
We've got intellectuals, and because you're not shown the wide variety of our people, we're just people, we're human beings.
Exactly.
We're just like the representations that you have of English people. Not every English person is Mr. Bean.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
So, I mean, my thing was more of a reaction against that kind of stuff. So yeah, as I was saying, the interactions that I have with people is I've had so many funny things that people have said to me. You know, oh hey, how you doing? Yeah, I'm fine. How are you? Thanks. Oh, so where are you from? Oh, I'm from Luton. No, where are you from? Where are you from? Where are your parents from? Oh, they're from Punjab, which is in India. Oh, okay. Yeah, I love Indian food.
Yeah.
I mean, this is probably in some next comedy video or something that you've probably seen on YouTube. But I mean, when you have these experiences, you're just like, so
and it's a constant experience.
Yeah.
It's not a one-off encounter.
So I mean, my thing was to be positive, to be empowering. That was one of the things. I wanted it to be empowering. I didn't want Asian people. And when you talking about Asian people, you're not just talking about Punjabis, you're talking about the whole plethora of like, well, South Asian, would say, in other places. But I wanted it to be representative. I mean, I wanted everyone to be proud of it and it to be empowering. I had a Twitter interaction with someone when it was first aired, and they said it was typical. I think it was an Asian person.
Yeah.
They said it was a typical kind of representation, or it was nothing new, basically. And there's a line. Well, there's two lines that I wanted to talk about on the thing. One is, I can't even remember the thing, but there's a line where I say, "Kings and queens, show them how you hold your crown." So I replied to that guy and I said, I've never heard of Asian people being called kings and queens in any kind of mainstream TV thing before. So I'd say that's not typical.
Where's the typical in that? Yeah.
And I think he responded the next day and was like, "Yeah, you're right. I watched it again." You know.
Yeah. So you mean you paid attention this time? That's the other thing as well.
Yeah.
We can't look at our own content and write it off on face value.
Yeah.
And I was having this conversation with Sukraj Singh from Sikh Talk, which was, you have to pay attention to detail.
Yeah.
If you want to be a part of the conversation, pay attention. Don't just be a sound piece just to hear the sound of your own voice.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If you want to get involved in the conversation, then know you're going to be challenged. Know people are going to have an opinion on it, and make sure that you've taken the time out to be able to hold your own. And that's really interesting that, off the cuff, someone may have watched it and sort of switched off.
Yeah.
So they're seeing visual representation, creating their own association that they've become accustomed to, and then blurting that feeling out. Oh, it's typical. When challenged, oh yeah, it's not. Yeah, but bruv, what changed? The advert didn't change.
But you see a lot of that. I mean, I see. I wouldn't say a lot of it, but I see that in music as well. Like,
okay, yeah.
people will say this is typical, this is that. They're not listening to lyrics, they're not paying attention to what's being shown. They just kind of see like flashy editing or great lighting and think, oh, okay, this is typical. I mean, the other line that I wanted to kind of talk about as well, which was more in the response to the interactions I've had with certain people, was there's a line where I say, I am more than just a beard or the nation's favourite dish. I thought that was really important. Because we're caricatures basically in mainstream culture and society, and that's not who we are. Like, I just wanted to have a response to that. Like, some of my stuff got changed slightly. I think a couple of words kind of got changed slightly, because it was a collaborative process. There was an agency involved who did something first, which was scrapped. And then I came on board as a creative, and then obviously we created that piece that we did. But
that's not just who we are. We're not just beards and the nation's favorite dish.
Yeah.
That we have more layers to that, and I think that touches on a more important point, which is, I kind of feel like there is an attitude amongst that part of the nation, which is, you're here by our grace.
Yeah.
So you're here because we've allowed you to be here.
Yeah.
We accept you because there are things about your culture that we like.
And you're here.
But this notion, unfortunately, has been long-standing into our psyche, because that's something to then think about on a deeper level, which is what led us to a place where now we look at our own content and immediately we immediately create a disassociation. Oh, that's typical. Oh, that's freshy. Oh, that's so dissy, or that's so Bindu. What's with the self-hate? What is with this constant disassociation? That says a lot about the culture that's been imposed upon us of who we think we are.
It's wanting acceptance.
Yeah.
And that's what, I mean, I kind of struggle.
Validation from people who will never, ever, brother, accept us as one of their own.
Yeah.
And for me, I came to terms with that a long time ago.
Yeah.
Because I just kind of, I came to this weird revelation where it was like, that's just the way of the world, bro. We have always, historically, wherever you are, look at any annal of history, we have always reacted awkwardly to that which is different. That's where most wars stem from. Most battles stem from. A difference of ideologies, a difference of skin color, a difference of philosophies. That is the way the world exists. And to live in this false fantasy of, why can't we all just get along? That would be nice. And I'm sure everyone would like that in an ideal situation, but you can't shy away from the reality that has existed pretty much since the dawn of the caveman. You know what I mean? It's we are different, and as a result, we treat people differently. That doesn't mean it's the right thing to do or we should do it, but to act like it doesn't exist. Of course it exists, and if they feel that way, why are you trying so hard? What is this appeasement? What will that give us as a community?
That's, I mean, before I took that project on, I remember talking to you on the phone about it. We had a conversation because I was conflicted. I didn't want to be, and I can't remember how the piece goes now, but I didn't want it to be appeasement.
You're not a token rapper, bro.
Yeah, and I didn't want it to be like, oh, look at us. We're just, we're normal people as well. We're, look at us. We're, I didn't want it to be like that. Because I don't like, literally, I give no shits whatsoever if you like us or you don't. Like,
and it's legitimately not our viewpoint of the world. So in fact, it's a conflict of our identity if you ask me, or as you were asked to do so. But it's like, but I'm not about that life. And you're trying to put me in this very thing that is causing your self-hate and is causing this dissension amongst the community. Because I was the same, bro. I'll put my hands up before, I awoke, let's say. I grew up under the same concepts of our culture. There are the terms of being a Bindu, a Desi, a freshie, and all this terminology, and maybe it's an age thing, but for me it's like, I don't want nothing to do with those words anymore, because where have we created this negative concept of self? These are all parts of our culture, and for whatever reason they exist, we have to be able to look at them and address them and understand them and find out the root cause, because there may be a deeper inherent issue at hand here that has caused this archetype of behavior. But to just write it off as a derogatory term, it's easy. That's easy to do. to shut it off and be like, oh, you're such a Pindu, bruv. But why is that a bad thing? Sali, I am from the Pind. My ancestry is from a Pind. You know what I mean? Like Desi, I am Desi. That's my ancestry. That's my heritage. Why is that a problem?
Yeah.
That for me is a wider stemming issue of where culturally the things that have strengthened in our community in terms of what has taken the popular vote, you know, get pissed, party hard, like these buffooneries of our culture have taken precedent, and as a result we think that's all we are. No, you ain't taking the time and research to look at everything else that exists around us. Like, for example,
but we need to be reminded of that as well, don't you think? Like it's if all you're shown is who you are,
that's the thing, that's the deepness of it, bro. That is all we've been shown.
Exactly.
And then
it has a great effect. You don't realize it.
Brother, I didn't know the difference until two points in my life. One, I understood Sikhi. I may have been a Sikh all my life, but it wasn't until I understood Sikhi that I started to look at the world differently. And then two was when I started reading about colonization. It was those two main points in my life that actually forced me to stop and reevaluate my entire understanding of the world around me. Because those, for me, were the two most significant moments where everything I thought I understood a certain way was challenged. And then I had to deconstruct my entire sense of self and what I thought was life, and then start rebuilding that. And I'm still figuring that out now, but that really made a difference.
I think everyone who's kind of looked at colonization anyway is still trying to figure it out.
It breaks you, brother, because you realize
it's so deep.
Yeah.
But how do you find it knowing that? And I'm assuming we're similar, surrounded by people who
are not about that life.
who you know, who are worried about these foreigners coming to England.
Listen, it's
these Eastern Europeans who are coming to England.
It's really difficult to navigate that, because I can't force you, just as you can't force me to sit down and read Wretched of the Earth or read Orientalism. And this is maybe as reflective of where we're moving as a society or culture, but to study realness, or to study discomfort, to study things that will make you reflect and force you to reevaluate your reality of what you thought was the way to behave, or what you thought was important in terms of success in life. I don't think a lot of people are ready to take that pill and see the matrix for the ones and zeros that it is, because then I think then you're faced with a uglier truth, which is,
this isn't real.
I now know, that and
your reality isn't.
And I now know this. Do I continue to ignore it and pretend that it doesn't exist, or do I face it?
Yeah.
And I don't, and I can't speak on anyone else's behalf, but I don't think either of those are an easy choice.
No.
Because you got to live with yourself if you choose to ignore it and you know it exists. And that comes with its own set of emotional challenges. But then to accept it and face it as a reality, that comes with its own set of challenges, because then every day, like, you know what's wicked? Like the Boondocks.
Yeah.
And
amazing show.
What's it? Is it Huey?
Huey and Riley.
Yeah. Huey's the older one, right?
I can't remember.
Right. I think Huey's the one who's always like
Huey's the older one. Yeah,
right?
he is. Yeah. He's named after
Huey Newton.
Yeah.
So his struggle and how people perceive him as, oh, bruv, change the tone, innit? Like, change your note. It's always about the same stuff.
He's that guy. Yeah.
He's that guy, but you end up becoming that guy because
you do. I've seen it in my own life. Yeah, you do.
But it's because to everyone else it may sound like, you know, change the story, but that's because this is the only story I can now understand. And every other story I've seen it to be a lie. And for you it might sound like the same thing, but if I'm the only one in my circle, and I'm grateful and blessed to say my circle actually has a good mix of people who are about this life. But if like in your situation, if you're the only one in your circle who sees it, how can you not speak on it?
Yeah.
Because there's no one else to speak about it with. So you have to hold the flag, because you've awoken to this concept now. You can't rest on it, because that's the two options, right? You either continue knowing it exists, but you choose to ignore it, or you challenge it. And if you challenge it, that means no matter what conversation you find yourself in, your brain is automatically thinking in that direction.
Yeah.
And before you know it, like you're already thinking in your head, I'm about to give myself stress because I'm going to say something.
Exactly.
I know they're not going to like
Yeah,
it, but if I don't say it, then I'm lying to myself.
Yeah. You find yourself sometimes in the middle as well, like I do. Like you're not all the way like extremely deep in it like some people, and you're not all the way over here where the people are like lost in this fantasy of what they think reality is. So I mean, for me, I'm still trying to figure, like I've said to you, I'm still trying to figure it out.
Same here.
Like for me, I think it's just as long as I've got some sort of knowledge and I know, right, okay, this is what's being done. Like I can kind of navigate where I'm not making things worse, basically.
Right, yeah. And that's even that, brother, even that level of contribution, knowing that you're not contributing to the destruction of it.
Yeah.
You're not contributing to the further I think degradation is the right word, but the sort of, the breakdown of the culture.
Yeah.
Or the worsening of this, creating this stereotypical view.
Yeah.
Like one thing I'm seeing, which actually fills me with a lot of hope and excites me, is seeing the Bhangra culture, the sort of the dance aspect, the competitive dance aspect. I'm seeing that really sort of take a growth and spurt again. Now, I'm not about that life personally, but I understand it to be a part of my culture, and I appreciate it as a part of my culture. And for me, what would really top it off for me is like if these kids not only are dancing to it, but they understand the lyrics. Because then you're immersing yourself in the experience, and then actually they'll be showing me up because they'll have a deeper understanding of these words, of the environment they're in, and I find that beautiful because that's exciting for me.
And it starts like you just need an entry point in there.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, that's all it is. Like, it's a small little thing like that. Like, okay, I want to learn how to play the dole, or I want to learn how to, have be in a Bhangra dance competition or something, or join a Bhangra group. But it starts there. I think sometimes people are so against anything which doesn't further their own point of view that everything else becomes just, or why are they doing that for? Why are you doing this for?
And I sit there too, bro.
Yeah.
I'm like it's like a swing. You know what I mean? It's a pendulum.
Yeah.
That sometimes I sit in that place as well, and I look at it and say, what is this Gandapana?
Yeah.
And it's like, and when I'm in that place, then it's really difficult because you do become tunnel vision.
Yeah.
Because it's like, why does this exist?
Yeah.
Why can't it just not exist? But then again, it's pulling myself back, and again, that pendulum swings that where you appreciate that this is all part of it.
Yeah.
As idealistic as it would be for it to be just one way, life has never worked that way, and to think it can is wishful thinking.
I always used to feel that way about music, a lot more when I was younger.
Yeah.
I used to feel like, oh, why is this like these stupid songs? There's so many songs that aren't about anything, all this party music, blah, 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 all this kind of stuff.
Why can't everyone be real?
Yeah. Why can't they play these kind of songs on the radio?
Yeah.
Why is no one, why is this song not number one? Da, 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 all this kind of stuff. And then I just got to a point where I was like, let people have what they want, man. Like, why impose my own feelings about these things? And I think I just kind of chilled out a bit more. I was like it's that same Talib Kweli, like Kweli lyric, like you can't be everything to everyone at the same time. Like that's not for me. Like steps, that's not for you, bro. That's for kids.
Yeah.
That's for kids and these people who just want to have a dance on a Friday night.
I wonder how many of the listeners will even remember steps, bro. You're taking it back there.
Do you know what I mean? Like S Club 7 or all this kind of stuff.
Shit,
I was like, that's not for you, bro. Like you've got stuff that's for you. Be happy that there's stuff for you. Be happy that you can create stuff. Be happy. There's a lot of things to be grateful for, and stuff that's not for you, just let it be. It's for someone else. It's for someone else. It's for their own enjoyment. It's for their own whatever they need it for.
I think for me, the fine line that I'm constantly navigating, because I can't say I've defined it yet fully, is knowing when you need to step to the plate to make your voice heard and maybe re-educate or present your perspective on this so people can understand that there is a side to this. There is a different side to this story. And for me, I find that to be anything that I see that I feel is a detriment to the culture, or is coming and only shedding a negative light that takes away from our rich identity, our rich history, our rich heritage, then it's like, okay, that I need to say something about.
Yeah.
That I need to either create an Insta story about, or a Snap story about, or talk about in a podcast, because if it's like weeds, sure, they're harmless. Sure, they can just be pulled out. But if they overgrow, it's not so easy then.
Yeah.
And I think that's where these certain things, we need to have stop markers, because it's like someone's got to do it, bruv.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So someone's got to be the bad guy.
But you know what it is? When you do it, like for me, it feels like, for me, it feels...
It's going to stay in your head now, isn't it?
For me, it feels like you come from a place of two things. One, wisdom, and from love.
Yeah, bruv, big time on the love. Wisdom, I don't know. We'll figure that one out. But it's from the heart, bro. It's because I care.
Yeah, I mean, but that's the thing. Like, a lot of people will not come from a place of love. And I mean, if anyone's getting criticized, whoever it is, like, people, first thing is, I think people forget that anyone who's popular, or an artist, a comedian, or whoever it is, popular, has a big audience, they're just normal people. Like, they haven't got all the answers. They don't know everything. They're going to make mistakes. They're going to say stupid things. They're going to mess up. That's one. Two is, if someone's criticizing you and coming for you, no matter, even if you're in the wrong, you're going to be automatically defensive, or you're going to be on the offensive back.
Yeah.
If someone's coming to you from a place of love and speaking to you and trying to explain to you something, you'll be more, you will reciprocate that energy. And I feel like you come from that place when you do have these moments. But I think that needs to be done more so, especially when it's someone in our community, or is someone who we feel has a kind of voice or something, and influence especially. They need to be, we haven't got elders, bro. Like, who are the elders?
Yeah, that's a deep point. Yeah,
it's because there's no one who's done it already. Like, everyone's who's doing things and that are successful in any field, which is like YouTube people, or singers, or whoever it is. There's not, other than like Bhangra singers who, like, there's a legacy of those. Everyone else is just, they're trying to figure it out.
We're navigating this for the first time. Yeah, these are unfamiliar waters.
So they're gonna be the elders at one point, so they can look back and say, look guys, don't do this, or I remember when I was your age, I was doing this, blah blah blah. Like, I would say that to certain artists as well. If an artist came to me with asking for some feedback, or asking for something, or saying, look, I've got this song, I say this lyric in it, or da 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 da, do you think this will work? Obviously, first express your creativity in any way you can. If I feel like it's going to be detrimental, or there's a problem with it, I will tell you. The rest is up to you. But as someone who's been doing this for a long time, I will try and be that positive influence, or come from a place of love and give you that feedback if it's asked for. Yeah,
and you know what? That's a really important point you bring up, because I think it's something that I've certainly battled with for a long time. And this past year has really sort of been a growing process for me in coming to terms with some of my responsibilities as an individual, but also as a representative for this identity and this path. And it's a heavy weight. There's one quote that I've sort of, it's become a bit of a mantra for me, and not in a detrimental way, but in a way that reminds me of responsibility, which is, heavy is the head that wears the crown. And that's such a, for me, that's such a poignant saying, and both figuratively, both literally, because of the start, but it's real, man. Like, when you are trying to take on the world, or create positive change, or give something that is bigger than yourself, it comes with all the emotional attachments that go with that: love, hate, anger, happiness, joy, fear, sorrow, the whole spectrum, because it's never going to be this one way. And what I might see as idealistic right now, I might look back on in 6 months or 12 months and be like, man, I had it so wrong.
Yeah.
But based on the information I had at that time, I thought it was the right way.
Yeah.
And then on the other end of the spectrum, we're a little old school, and we come from the sort of era of chat shit, get banged. You know what I mean?
I knew you were going to say that.
So it's a balance.
Yeah.
It's a balance because it's when I make that saying, I say that in a funny way, because it's like I'm saying I come from a generation where you got shittar, bruv.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It was real.
Yeah.
Like, Chapera were real.
Yeah.
And they weren't like soft ones. They weren't like what called child services.
Nah.
That was, they'll show you pichle janam, bruv. Those kind of Chapera. But it played a role. It served a purpose. Let me be clear. I'm not saying violence is the answer, but I'm saying it is a tool that has been used on many occasions throughout history, and it has had results. But this understanding of wanting to approach from a place of love, first and foremost, 100% agree. For me, my whole understanding of Sikhi is it's the greatest love story ever told. Guru Granth Sahib Ji, for me, is the greatest love story ever told. If you want to understand what unconditional love looks like, just read Guru Granth Sahib Ji. Now, trying to emulate that.
That's the thing. We're humans.
As a mere mortal.
Yeah, exactly.
But then I look at it like this. They laid the foundation, bro. They laid the blueprint. By giving us the Gurbani. They laid the blueprint of what it means to approach life from a place of love. It wasn't. There's no mysticism to this for me. It's a like, you go into a WH Smith and you got that Dummy's Guide for Computers, Dummy's Guide for Mac. That's a Dummy's Guide for navigating life. That's what Guru Granth Sahib Ji is. It gives you a pathway to view things, and that primary place of love is the key. It's the answer. It's the major key, as Sada boy DJ Khalid says. Yeah,
major.
It's the major, but we're human, and we're open to the fact that sometimes I get vexed or I see things and the immediate gut reaction is like, where's the block button? Where's the why did I see this? Why did this have to come into my sphere of existence?
Yeah.
But that's life, innit? That's the whole spectrum.
But
of
the
it.
fact that you can identify, a lot of people can't, bro. Like, they can't identify, like, once you get to a certain level, you can identify, right, I'm feeling this way about this. Do you know what I mean? Like, it might be a gut reaction or whatever, and the fact that you can look back and be like, okay, I did do that, or I felt that type of way, or whatever. Some people can't. They're just out here, like, 1 minute hating something, 1 minute loving something, like.
And I think it comes back to that place where you mentioned earlier, which is when you're discovering yourself, a lot of things can be quite reactionary. Because you don't know where you stand on it.
Yeah.
Because you don't know what you're about.
Yeah.
And the moment you get a better understanding of what you stand for or what makes you who you are, then you're able to approach those situations from a place of like, okay, what does that mean to me? And what does that mean to that situation?
Yeah.
Because it's not just about me. If you're going through some stuff, it's not about, well, how does that affect me? It's like, okay, what does that mean for you in your environment?
Yeah.
How does that affect you? And have I got a reference where I can offer some support or offer some guidance in that area? And that detachment, I think that is really important as well. Not making, like you hear it in like, not everything's about you, yeah. It's true.
Yeah.
And to be able to detach yourself from that listen, it's not always about you. Even if the argument is at you, everyone's got things going on.
Yeah.
Everyone's got shit.
Yeah.
Like we've all got our things that we're dealing with.
Yeah.
We've all got our challenges, and that understanding of being like, okay, I reached out to so-and-so. Maybe they didn't get back to me because they got stuff going on. Maybe it's not to do with the fact that I messaged them. Maybe they got stuff that they're figuring out. It's not always about like, what did I do, brother? Be like that. Then it switches, like you get defensive. It's like, why are you arguing with yourself?
I made this effort. I did this. You know what I mean? But people have their own stuff going on, man. Like, everyone does. And I have a really funny story that I'll tell you about. This is one of the most embarrassing gigs that I've ever done. Like when I first started, we had a little bit of success in 2011, and I was kind of managing myself to a certain extent. I had a show at this school. It was one of the worst gigs I've ever done. So basically, I think these like year 11s, these couple of these like year 11 girls, they booked me for this school show, and it was like an after school evening kind of school show, and it was just a shambles, like proper shambles. And I got there, I went onto the stage, and when they introduced me on the stage, one of the girls was like, "Oh, you lot are stupid. You didn't think we were going to get him, but he's here and he's performing." And I was like, "Yo,
wow,
what's going on?" And then they were like, "Oh, we want to be on the stage with you when you're performing." And I was like, "Nah, like, I'll just do my performance. Like, I don't need a bunch of like 15, 16-year-olds on the stage with me performing."
This ain't the squad, isn't it? This ain't getting squaddy.
Anyway, it was like it was really awkward kind of show, and afterwards, it was so badly organized. I don't know what the teachers were doing. Like, teachers, like, organize, do something, innit? Like, take me to some next area. So basically, they were like, "I'll come to this other like area and come and sit for a bit, like after the performance." Obviously, there was no security, nothing. A bunch of kids, like whatever. So one of the teachers took me to this like area. And they just kind of left me there. And then I was with someone, and he kind of went to the toilet. And then I was just there. Like, imagine, like, I'm just there. I'm already kind of a bit awkward anyway. Like, and I'm surrounded by all these people. And, like, I don't really know what to do, what to say. Like, and everyone's like, "Oh, can we take a picture? Can we take a picture?" I'm like, cool. Yeah, take a picture. Loads of people are taking pictures. And they got their own thing going on as kids. "Oh, you lot didn't think we would do it. Da, 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 da. They got their own like whatever school politics going on.
Yeah.
And I was like, "Yo, this is nuts. Like, I need to get out of here. Like, I can't handle this." Like, it was sensory overload to like a billion. So my guy comes back. I'm like, "Bro, let's get out of here." So he's like, "Okay, cool, bro." He goes, "Cool, we'll get out of here." So I was like, "Bro, I just need to get out of here." Like, I don't know if I was having a panic attack or what, but I just needed to get out of there. So we're literally going, and I'm not looking at anyone. Like, I'm literally, my eyes are just like focused on the like straight ahead. I just need to get out of here. This is too much for me. So we just literally like tunnel vision. Like, he just kind of grabbed me and he was like, "Let's go." He's like, "Right, let's go."
Yeah,
and he's not pushing people out of the way, but he's just like, "Oh, let's get out." Yeah. We get out of there. Then two things. One person was on Twitter the day after that. They were like, "Oh, you're so rude. You didn't take pictures with people, blah, blah, blah." Like, I was like, what do you want me to like, you have no idea what was going on. Like, you know, I can't, you know, what do you want me to do? Like, chop off my arm? Like, and then there was one guy who messaged me, and he goes, "Bro, you were leaving and I looked right at you and I asked you to take a picture with me and you just ignored me." And I was like, I don't remember this guy. I didn't hear anything. I like, literally, my mind was just on getting out of there. And that's one of those, like, it just reminds me of that. Like he had no idea what I was trying to deal with, and I don't know, like, what, but it wasn't about him.
Exactly.
And it wasn't about me, like, you know.
He's having a like dil to pagal hai moment, and then
he was like, "Bro, you ignored me."
We looked at each other, you know.
He goes,
the bond was made, brother. You acknowledged me.
Exactly. He goes,
you just walked off.
He goes, "You looked at me and you didn't, like, you ignored me when I asked you for a picture." And I'm like, I didn't hear you ask for. I didn't hear anyone. My mind was on, I need to get the hell out of here. This is the worst organized show that I've ever been to, and I didn't even get paid hardly anything to do it.
but I think, you know what, brother? It's I'm fascinated to see where the journey of human interaction goes as we become more and more digital, as we become less and less in-person interaction, where you can. You know, I believe in energy. I believe in physiology, and emotions feed off more than just digital, right? So we can message back and forth. It's ones and zeros that create pixels that create this formation. And if you happen to have a good sense of grammar, etc., you can articulate yourself in a certain way that you should be able to get your message across in a digital format. But and this comes back nicely to the idea of being in the studio with human beings who are also in the same field and that creative energy. how we'll behave. Like I could have called you, or we could have done a Skype podcast, but that energy, what we're creating now, could not be created in that format. No matter what you do, it just couldn't happen that way. And that intrigues me, because what's that going to look like 10, 20 years from now, when there's an entire generation who perhaps who don't know that feeling of social interaction, other than maybe they went to schools.
But do you honestly think that things will progress to a point where it would be, because I kind of, there's certain little things that are happening, like people talk about, oh, streaming's the future, streaming's this, streaming's that, and vinyls have had the biggest sales year in the past year than they have for like 20 or 30 years. So even though there's like this major shift in things happening, there's kind of like a return back to how things used to be to a certain point as well.
But what would be interesting, because I don't know the details, would be who were the people, when you say things are shifting back, what people were shifting back? Is it us lot, which is our generation? Because we're gonna, because we're in this middle ground of, we've got a nostalgic attachment, and sometimes but modern stuff just feels a bit too like, you want to take it back.
That's true.
But the next generation, I'm intrigued to see whether
the ones who grew up with
that, like I don't know, I grew up with an abacus, but the kid who grew up with an iPad, their connection generally is going to be different. Or in another, well, VR's come along a long way now already. But if you're living like, there's these like games, Second Life or Half-Life, something like that, where you live another, like Sims. Imagine the virtual reality world of Sims, where you spend more and more time interacting, but in a virtual environment. Will you understand? Will you learn the intricacies of being able to look at someone's face and you get that energy of, you know what, something's up with them?
I think I don't know, I suppose it's the optimist in me. I always feel like there's that innate nature of us to have that anyway, like to have that interaction.
We are social creatures, 100%.
You know what I mean?
But
there's gonna be that.
But we're also convenient creatures.
We are.
You know what I mean? Convenience is a big deal.
But I always think like it's like the end of WALL-E. Like,
bruv, do you know what I mean? While we're having this conversation, that movie is what is giving me this idea.
It's gonna be like the end of WALL-E, bro. Like it might get like we're all fat riding these big chairs and that, and then one day some robot's just gonna come with a plant, and we're just gonna be like, "Yo, we need to plant some seeds."
I hope so, bro. I hope that is the vision for the future.
I do feel there is that kind of push towards all this kind of, AI and virtual realities, all this kind of stuff, which is constantly there's a constant need to push things further and further and further.
I think those people who can find the differentiation between understanding that these are tools versus these are necessities are the ones who are going to win. If you can differentiate between, okay, I have a phone, it serves specific purposes for me, but I can live without it.
Definitely, it's a tool.
But
like use the phone, don't let the phone
use you. Don't let it become you become subservient to technology.
But that's the same thing with the mind as well. Like your thoughts are, your mind is just your brain is a tool. Your mind is a tool. It should be subservient to you. You shouldn't let that take you. Your thoughts should be taken over.
Now you're going deep, bro. Because when you say subservient to you, are you saying subservient to the conscious?
Yeah.
We're taking it. I don't know if we should leave it here as a cliffhanger. Because when you say you, what is you? Because you're right. We battle with our internal thoughts. Oh yeah. And
that's another one.
Yeah, the ego, the conscious, the different parts of you. What is it? The id. And like we can go real psychology to the id and the other thing, but yeah, you're right, and that's the ultimate tool. And I talk about this actually. I've talked about it a few times, that the most important conversation we have in our day is the one we have with ourselves, because the mind is that amazing. That's the brain, brother, is so adaptive. It's phenomenal what the brain can do to survive in terms of create survival mechanisms to keep us sane and functional. And it's so adaptive in a way that we can create our own hells, or we can create our own paradises up here. And we can start up here. And absolutely, there are external factors that can influence that, specifically chemical factors, not just drugs, but what you eat, whether you exercise. All these play a huge role in how the chemical reactions work. But the fact is, the one thing we definitely can control before it's too late is the words we say to ourselves or the conversations. And this comes back to that point of, as a culture, the cultural words or slangs or derogatory terms we associate to ourselves, they impact generations.
Yeah.
They impact future psyches, because if that's what you've been brought up to understand through language, that's how you will then behave moving forward, because that's your understanding of the world around you.
Bro, 100% I agree with you. I think it's important for us to be positive about who we are, what our culture is, what our backgrounds are, and not feel like it's something that we need to be ashamed of, or there needs to be balance. I think that's the biggest thing.
Yeah.
The balance. Like, we have voices that are, parodies of our culture. We have voices that are outside of our culture and telling us who we are. Where's the positive voices? Where's the positive representations? Where's the other side of that, basically?
Yeah, and
we're in charge, though.
The autonomy.
Yeah.
The goal for me is the autonomy of having our voice back.
Yeah. And in this day and age, we have the opportunity to do that.
Create that. We have to create that.
Exactly. And I think that's important for us to show that as well, just as a reaction to all this other crap that's out there. There needs to be that, because people need to be shown that, like, especially, and we've talked about this before, but it's our responsibility. Like, when you get to a certain age, you start looking back and thinking, and not like we're like old Buddha and that, but still, like, you still feel like
you mature, bro. You start as you grow, and it's not, I think, let's not associate age to being old. It's the fact is, as you grow, as you age, you develop, and therefore your worldviews will mature, evolve, change over time. That's the way it is.
Definitely.
That's like the seasons, bro. Nothing stays the same. Everything is a change of energy.
Of course. And like we were saying before, there's no elders, but I feel like, okay, there's no elders, so we're the elders. We'll be the elders.
Let's step to the plate.
Yeah. That's our responsibility now.
Handshake, bruv. Handshake. It's on camera. We about this, man.
Yeah.
Well, listen, brother. As always, it's been an absolute pleasure,
of course,
to have you in the studio.
Likewise.
When are we doing this again? This needs to happen more often.
Yeah, we will. We covered quite a lot.
I know.
Let's live a little bit and get back to the next one.
We will make it happen, man. So what's next for you? Where can people find out what you're up to?
Just follow me, man. If you're watching this, you're probably following me already. But yeah, it's all online. Just search for Raxstar.
Perfect, brother. Much love and respect.
Cool.
And I will see you very soon.
Thank you.